So this week and next week, you're going to be using graphs and data and knowing how to connect them. And so I know you guys are probably familiar with a bar graph. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning about a different type of graph other than a bar graph and how to analyze it. So when we're using graphs, it's usually used to make information easier to see, and it's easy to answer different types of questions. For example, looking at this bar graph right here over the nicest fruit, I could ask you a question of, do more people like apples or do more people think kiwi fruit is the nicest fruit? Very good. If you said apples, you're correct, because if you look at the graph, the number of people who chose apples was 35, but the number of people who chose kiwi fruit was 25. I could even ask you, what is the difference between the number of people who chose apples and the number of people who chose kiwi fruit? And if you said 10 people, then you're correct because difference means to subtract, and 35 minus 25 is 10. So using graphs is an easier way to understand information. When you start using graphs, the first thing you start with is a survey. And a survey is a question that you ask different people, and you can ask them different types of questions. So today, what I'm going to be using as an example is, what day of the week were you born? Now, obviously, you only have 7 answer choices to choose from, your 7 days of the week. So, for example, if I were to be asked this question, I would say that I was born on a Thursday because my birthday is May 7th, 1992, and May 7th in the year 1992 fell on a Thursday. So, my vote would go for Thursday. So, if I were to have asked the class, what day of the week were you born on? I would have collected data. Student 1 said Monday. Student 2 Tuesday, Student 3 Wednesday, Student 4 Thursday, Student 5 Monday, Student 6 Friday. So I collect all this data and it's just written in random days. There is a way you can organize this information to make it easier to see. So if I were to say, hey, how many kids were born on a Monday? You can't just look at this and say, oh, I know the answer. So we use a frequency table to make that to answering those types of questions a little easier for you guys. So what you do is you start off with a frequency table and you have your labels. So obviously all of our answer choices are going to be days of the week. So we're going to go in and label our 7 days of the week. And then you're going to put a tally mark every time you see a Monday. And then our frequency is going to be the actual number. So if we see Monday 10 times, I'm going to have 10 tally marks and I'm going to have a number 10 right here. So I'm going to go through and count all my Mondays. And when I do that, there are 4 Mondays. I went through every single row, and every time I saw a Monday, I crossed it out. So when I went through the entire data, there's 4 Mondays, so I have 4 tally marks, and I wrote the number 4. I'm going to do the same with Tuesday. And when I'm done with Tuesdays, there were 7 Tuesdays. So I'm going to put 7 tally marks, and then my frequency number is 7. You're going to continue this all the way down. So that way your frequency table needs to match the data that was collected. So when I'm done, I were to go through, I would do all of Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. This would be the end of my frequency table. And if you can even go back and double check Fridays. I put 3 here and I see that I did Fridays in a black slash and there's only 3 Fridays. They have to match. If your frequency table does not match your data, then there is something wrong. That's an error that you have found. So once you have everything in your frequency table, it's a lot easier to analyze your data. You can now physically see that there are 3 people who were born on a Saturday, only 1 person on a Sunday, and I could even ask you different types of questions. For example, looking at our frequency table, can you decide what day of the week most of our students were born on? If you answer Tuesday, then you are correct because Tuesday has the highest number with 7. Which day of the week were the least number of students born on? If you answered Sunday, then you are correct. So you can answer different types of questions. Now that it's organized, it's easier for you guys to see. I could even ask you a question of how many people took the survey, meaning how many people actually answered the question of What day of the week were you born on? Do you guys know what you would need to do to figure out how many people took the survey? If you said add them all up, then you are correct. It would be like a strip diagram. Those would be your 7 parts, and to find out your whole, you have to add all your parts together, and the answer would be 30 people took the survey if I were to add all of my frequency numbers together. So there's going to be 2 different types of graphs that we're going to be learning about. The one you're going to be working on this week is called a dot plot. Now, the easiest way for you guys to remember how to analyze a dot plot is you need to remember that a dot plot means your vote is represented by a dot. Just like in a bar graph, your vote is represented by a bar. In a pie chart, your vote is represented by a pie. In a frequency table, your vote is represented by a tally mark, which is a tally chart, and then a frequency number of how many tallies did you have. So when we're looking at this graph, just remember all of these dots is a vote by somebody. So here I have my data. And the question that was asked is how long does it take you to eat breakfast? Now remember, a dot plot means that your vote is represented by a dot. So just by looking at this graph, I can see that all these blue dots is somebody's vote, and all of these green numbers are the number of minutes that it takes them to eat breakfast. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make sure that my data matches my frequency table because there can be errors. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to start with 0. How many people said it takes less than 1 minute to eat their breakfast? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to count all of my zeros that are in my data. And when you do that, you cross them out and you are left with 6 zeros. So that means my 6 zeros are going to be represented by my 6 votes. So there's my 6 votes for people who eat breakfast in less than a minute. Now I'm going to go match my 1 minutes. I should have how many? How many ones should I have? Very good. You should have 2. And once you cross them out, you can see that there's only 2 ones, so they match. I'm going to go in and do my 2s. How many 2s should I have in my data? 3. I'm going to go through, check to see if I have 3 2s. And I do. So my data, this is your data, needs to match your frequency table. So if I were to ask you right now, do the number of minutes for 9 match the numbers in my data? 9 minutes. So how many votes should I have for 9 minutes? And go see if they match in the data. And if you found 1 right here, 2 right here, and 3 down here, it does match. There was no errors in this one. So you can have data and it has to match your dot plot. And that means you're going to have to go through and take your time and you're going to actually have to go make sure that there are only 3 2s or there are only 6 zeros. If they don't match, then that is an error and that might be a question you get asked is which number has the error. So another way that you can analyze a dot plot is by matching it to the frequency table. So always remember that your vote is represented by a dot. So if this question were number of brothers and sisters, these numbers down here represent your title. Your vote is represented by a dot. So we're going to match these up. Okay, so 0 siblings should have 2 tally marks, which means 2 votes. And here's my 2 votes, 1, 2, so they match. Number of siblings, 1. There's 3 dots, which means there's 3 votes. There's 3 tallies. There's 3 frequency numbers. It matches. Go and make sure that the 2, the 3, and the 4 number of siblings match. If you said yes, they do match, then you are correct. There are 5 people who said they have 2 siblings, and there are 3 people who said they have 3 siblings, and there's only 2 people who said they have 4 siblings. So remember, you can match a frequency table to a dot plot. There can be errors, so make sure that they match each other. Okay, I want you guys now to find the error. So this question was, what type of food can you eat for a snack? So here's your dot plot. Remember, your vote is represented by a dot. I want you to check this dot plot and I want you to match it to the frequency table. And I want to see, can you find where the error is? I'm going to give you a couple seconds. If you said that fries had an error, then you are correct. The dot plot says that there's only 2 votes for fries, but on our frequency table, it says there should be 3. So that is an error. And you can be asked questions as to where's the error, like which one's wrong. So you have to make sure that you are matching the frequency table numbers to the dot plot. So things to remember. You need to make sure you match this frequency table to the data. Now, I know this one that we did as an example was a lot. There was a lot of information. There was 30 people, 30 votes that were taken. But you have to make sure it does take a little bit of time, but you have to make sure that they match each other because there can be errors. So make sure that they match each other by double checking that on Monday, there's only 4 Mondays listed in your data. Also, you need to make sure that the dot plot matches the frequency table. And for example, this is the one that you guys were able to find that there was only 2 fries, but on the frequency table it says there should have been 3. So this dot plot was wrong. There should have been 1 more dot for fries. So these are just things that you guys need to remember. When you are done with this video, check out the other things on the other slides right below this. That way you can practice before you go take your practice questions. Good luck, guys.